So, folks, thank you for joining us once again. I'm with my friend Rash
Harsh.
Tiwani.
Tiwari. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we practiced on the first name, we didn't practice on the last name. He is the chief editor of the Pangean, which is an online magazine which celebrates and discusses multiple viewpoints from multiple perspectives and multiple ideologies. Feel free to look into that as well as potentially become a contributor yourself. Anyway, hope you're doing very well. One thing I would really like to talk with you today about is how do civilizations maintain their cultural independence, their nationalism, in a multiculturalist world? Now, first of all comes the question, do you believe this is still a multicultural world we live in?
I think in terms see the thing I'd say about
do you think it's on the decline? This multicultural world, would you say it's becoming less of a multicultural world?
No. What I'd say is this, first let me clarify what I mean by multicultural. By multicultural, I don't mean that, I don't mean multiculturalism or the idea that all cultures are equal or anything of that sort. That's a very different debate. What I mean is that, I think multiple cultures are living far closer to each other than they ever did. I mean, 100 years ago, you wouldn't have, if you lived in Middle America, you wouldn't know about what goes on in India. You wouldn't care about what goes on in India. But now if you live in Middle America with an internet connection, you can have intimate knowledge and multiple stupid views that you can put forward.
Right. I mean, look what we're doing right now.
Well, yeah. And I mean, this is a difficult question because, again, when the leftist speaks of a borderless world, or, I mean, I remember having this argument with one of these leftists or whatever you'd call them, who was espousing a borderless world, and they were thinking, that we should live in a world where cultures can seamlessly interact with each other, and where the boundaries that define a nation have no meaning. And I'm like, if you were trying to tell me that, and this was a white gentleman, so I had to do this because it was a lot of fun. I said, if boundaries have no meaning, if national borders have no meaning, then you occupying us had no meaning. And that ended the debate there. And sort of that functions as a launchpad for me to to go on to the more complicated discussion of, well, of course we need borders. That seems to be, we need borders, we need boundaries, just as we need boundaries on our behavior, we need boundaries in our home. This is my room, that is your room. We need borders. But how do we again prevent, at the same point of time, how do we get that balance right between, I mean, what is the difference between self-preservation and plain fact racism?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty simple. It depends on whether you are you are exerting your energy within yourself and your own culture, or whether you're exerting it on other people and their culture. Mm-hmm. That's a simple thing. I mean, there are thousands of co-cultures within the United States, if not, hundreds of thousands. And they are constantly evolving and changing. I mean, in the United States is pretty much the only place where you, with an Italian accent, can be eating a taco inside of a Chinese restaurant. It's one of the few places in the world where you can do something like that and have fun when you're doing, while having fun. I think the United States has done a better job than any other country in terms of peacefully adapting to each other's culture. The idea is that you don't have all these millions of different separate cultures, but rather you just have one big giant melting pot that you throw in a little bit of Indian spice, a little bit of French on this, and it just is this big giant mush pot. My dad would, his version of cooking is get everything in the fridge, dump it into a pot, and serve it mush. That's kind of what America is. It's mush. You know, do you think? And I think that predominantly that model works, at least for America. Do you not foresee it working in other countries?
Well, certainly not with mine, because mine, I mean, Mr. Shashi Tharoor, who was an Undersecretary General to the United Nations,
Okay.
and you know, accomplished author, 18 books. Again, an actual original thinker slash public intellectual, who you know has been a member of Parliament in India as well, and again speaks with a ridiculously British accent as well. Only reason why I love him. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So he wrote about how, so whenever you have a traditional Indian meal sort of will have like this main dish, either the rice or the bread, sort of in the center, and then there'll be a huge load of bowls around it. And each bowl contains a different kind of curry, different kind of vegetable preparation, different kind of dish, which sort of, and you dip your rice into all of that, and you sort of work your way through it, and you eat it. So he said, India is if America is a melting pot, well, India is that. It's, you know, it's one plate on which different bowls are kept, and each bowl is sort of a bowl, but each has its different flavor, but they're all connected by the fact that they're on one plate, and they're all connected by the fact that you're eating them with sort of one pile of rice, or you know, or you know, the same bit of bread. So
I would argue that it's. I mean, if you look at the relationship between India and Pakistan, it's, you know, that the sort of Hindu-Muslim relation, and even Hindu-Muslim-Christian relations in India are not very good, unlike the sort of relationship they have in America, which certainly isn't perfect, but I would argue better.
I would argue that is far the opposite. I mean, again, you read enough Breitbart, you will be convinced every place is a hellhole apart from America. But sorry, that was needed. So yeah, no, I'd argue again. I remember just coming back home after having got to the pub with a friend, and my Uber driver was Muslim. And we had this extremely poignant conversation on Indian society and everything. And maybe that's personal experience, but as far as I'm concerned, I think as far as religious coexistence is concerned, there's no one that can beat us. For the simple reason that only in India will you find that everyone celebrates every festival. We set up a Christmas tree in our home. We are a very orthodox Hindu Brahmin family. I'm sure. I hope you know India's caste system. Yeah.
To a certain degree.
We're pathetically up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we set up the Christmas tree. Everybody gets up, and this is the most beautiful thing. We have the largest number of public holidays because every religion's holiday is everyone's holiday. So if there's Diwali, the festival of lights for Hindus, Muslims get a holiday too. And if there's the Muslim festival of Eid, the Hindus get a holiday too. And everyone goes and feasts.
So everyone gets so I guess you get every day off, because there's some, I'm sure there is some culture at least within India that has the day off.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's a very happy head bubble. I mean, because I have grown up in an environment where I had friends from all kinds of different communities in India, speaking all kinds of different languages, from different religions. And again, I remember studying in an extremely Catholic school, which didn't have any white people in it.
Well, I mean, Catholicism. I mean, there's so many non-white Catholics out there. I mean,
No, that's not my point. My point is, you know, South India, you know, Hindu boy studying in Catholic school, you know. Yeah,
there's the European stereotype, to be sure.
Yeah.
I'm not
the funniest part is I
can
sing an absurd number of Christmas carols because of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to get at is that the relationship between, I mean, yes, there are. I mean, it's nice that you share holidays together, but I mean, from what it seems is that there is a increase in violence of Hindu nationalists
Now,
against.
now, it's a very recent development. It's because yeah, okay. Let me not comment much on Hindu nationalism here. We never know what can happen. India
Well,
slowly stop being,
how
stop
recent would you
having
say?
press freedom in the greatest way.
How recent would you say it is?
I'd say post Modi's election. Post PM Modi's.
Okay. So what, like, when was that? 2000, what, 15, 14? I'm not paying.
14.
Okay.
14.
Okay.
Yeah, because again, people being lynched because they eat beef. Why do you care?
Yeah.
I don't care. No, of course, for a joke, I will share on Facebook some article which says, eating cows is supposed to be harmful to the environment. And I'll be like, the world needs to be Hindu. Although I don't think Hinduism as a religion can or should proselytize. Yeah, I believe Hinduism has to be anti-proselytizing. You're either born a Hindu or you aren't.
What I'm getting to in the broader sense of this conversation is how do we maintain independence? How do we maintain as individual cultures in a quote unquote multicultural society? We first of all, you never really did define multicultural in your own sense. There's you talked about the borderless kind of borderless multicultural society. All cultures are equal, and you dismissed that. What are you replacing it with exactly?
And I replace it with what I think is said in the Hindu Upanishads. The Sanskrit phrase is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means all are children of one Vasudha, the earth. So the world is sort of one family. Now, as hippie as that sounds, what that means is the world is one family. So you sort of don't have much of a choice. You have to live with each other because you're family. You can't just wish a community away. We know that was tried, it failed. Thank God it failed. And at the same point of time, the world is one. Well, you guys are a family. You sort of have to respect each other's independence and each other's way of doing things. And at the same point of time, you have to help each other out as well. So it's about being participative without seeking to impose. So that's why, what I think America does right is, again, get a melting pot together. Right. What I think America does wrong is try and define in any real sense what is American, what is un-American.
I see. Well, to be fair, Americans are pretty bad at doing that. That very much is an internal debate, but at the same time, there are some very clearly un-American things. For example, burning the American flag. That's pretty un-American. You have the understanding and recognize you have the right to do so. Fine, that's American. But the thing is, America is more than a patch of dirt or a people. It really is more of a political concept of individual freedom, limited government, and things of that nature. And I don't know if you know this, but Martin Luther King Jr., our greatest civil rights leader, he did not encourage burning the flag or stomping on or pooping on or anything like that. Rather, he argued that he was being more akin to the American idea than the white race, the Ku Klux Klan and all these other racists. That's what he was trying to argue. What this new era of people of color, the left, Antifa, these people, they want to see America. They hate the founding fathers. They hate the origin of the Constitution. They hate the Constitution itself. They hate that concept of America, and they want to replace it with a more globalist, different, postmodern Marxist, left-leaning communist utopia. Blah 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 blah.
The only interjection I'd put over there is this, which is that I've always found this 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 Protestant, or rather Abrahamic need to reach a promised land, very very irritating, if you will, because
It's very much just the Western mindset versus the Eastern.
Yeah, trying to reach a promised land. And I think Marxism is an extreme example of trying to reach a promised land, because it's, I mean, again, you're supposed to have one God, one dictator of the proletariat, and you're going to reach this classless, stateless utopia. Just the way in which, for a conservative, you will reach this, this utopia of limited government and I don't know. So, with the Hindu way of looking at things, you try to take things more as a matter. It's more of every political concept of that sort is a bit of an illusion. Mm-hmm. That does, again, or maybe it sounds to some extent nihilistic, but I've always believed it is verily because everything is permissible that we are to think very, very carefully about what ought to be permissible, because none of us see all ends. And if we take everything that is permissible to mean everything ought to be permissible, then that's, then that's civilizational suicide. But all of that abstract philosophy aside, what I think for our case would be more important is just a recognition that this idea of America, or this idea of India, or this idea of anything is a bit. We need to have a healthy pessimism about that idea, because let's not kid ourselves. The American Constitution is a great document. The people who were at the Philadelphia Convention were enlightened people, but they were still restrained by the times they were in, and they were still a bunch of slave owners declaring that all people are born free and equal. I'm not saying that to their discredit. I'm just identifying and being realistic about, what is this thing built on? What are these freedoms built on? It took quite a few years, and when you say Martin Luther King, for him to sort of recalibrate American society to a more ideal notion of that ideal. Mm-hmm. So instead of trying to chase ideals, I think we have to refocus on here and now and sort of solve problems as we go along, instead of seeking an idea of America which we must get to, or a place where we must go, or an idea of a multicultural world where we must go. We must recognize more of where we shouldn't go.
Well, if you do that, then it's sort of an endless quest of not doing things. Don't do this, don't do that. But I mean, I'm not dismissing your idea. To a certain degree, you are right. You're absolutely right. But at the same time, there's yes, I mean, there is that political aspect of how do we get funding for that bridge over the creek, or how do we fix these potholes, or how are we going to have a better education system within the county. There are these local issues that are political, that are here and now, that we have to fix. But then there is this sort of high up, where are we going? What are we doing with ourselves? And I won't comment whether or not that's common in the Indian culture, or the Asian culture. Yeah, I assume that it's not.
We're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We're always reborn here.
Yeah, you see. We
live countless lives, so everything is meaningless.
I mean, see, that's the thing. That's
material achievement is futile.
The Indian, that's the biggest difference between Eastern Indian, Asian philosophy, both political and philosophical, and also Western, is that we do believe that we have one life to live. We're individuals, and we have to do the absolute best we can. And this sort of utopian, well, there's a distinction to be made. The more left-leaning side tends to have this utopian vision. Conservatives, I would say, don't really have a utopian vision so much as they have more of I want to be able to be free to pursue as best as I can. I want to be able to run as fast as I can, as hard as I can for this one race, because our mindset is this is not a rehearsal. Rather, this is the audition. And what our act is our, I mean, depending on whether or not you believe in a spirituality, is our legacy and our overall, our dealings in the afterlife. That would be the main actual act. But the main actual show does not matter if you mess up the rehearsal. And so the Western mindset is we need to do as best as we can in this rehearsal because this is all we got. We probably won't get to utopia, but we're going to try as hard as we can and do as best as we can at that. That's the most basic mindset of the Western political mind that I do my best to boil it down for my dear Eastern friends. So
No. Again, I've grown up in an environment where I was, initially forced to read the Bible until I found it extremely stimulating, or the Quran for that matter. And again, I've read City of God, and quite a lot of, and even a little bit of Vogler. Going to try Meister Eckhart. Again, when speaking to Troy has its advantages, doesn't it?
Yes.
That legend. We have to.
Warden, yes.
We have to shout out to Troy in this. Yeah.
Yes. The dear, lovely Mr. Warden, President Warden. Yeah.
The Brahmin of Berkeley.
Yeah.
The Brahmin of Berkeley.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No. I've granted him a sacred thread for his learning and for his weirdly Eastern bent of mind. Despite, he's become more of a Christian these days, which is annoying me, but that's fine. No. For me, or for the Eastern world, or at least for the Hindu, it's not. It is outgrowing the need to do your best.
Right.
It's reaching a level of spirituality where you don't even need to ask yourself, does life have meaning? You're living it because you're supposed to.
Yeah. See, that's the big Eastern folks, they can hop onto the Western train, but Western folks have a great difficulty hopping on the Eastern thought. And I've tried my best, and perhaps I'd have to live in India for a few years to really understand it.
Oh my God!
No,
the amount of fun I make fun of all white people who go on their gap years to India or any part of Asia. And I'm just
watch it now. This is my Middle Eastern voice talking, okay? Hey. I don't got a white drop of blood in this body, I'll have you know. But in any case, we are running out of time. I'll let you finish with sort of a few sentences on sort of what is the importance of maintaining our culture? Why should any particular civilization strive to maintain their culture?
Because without it, we have no sense of identity. Human beings have a pathological need for an identity. We're not just animals. We're these conscious human beings with these prefrontal cortexes, with imaginations. And if we don't maintain our cultures, if we don't maintain our cultural identities, well, again, it goes back to that question of if everything is permissible. And so if everything ought to be permissible, then it's civilizational suicide. It's in that way in which if we don't maintain our cultures, if we don't maintain our identities, then we are bound, to reach a point where it really does feel like we're Sisyphus. And I don't think human life is Sisyphus.
Rolling up the stone up the hill only to watch it fall down again.
No, it's this. These conversations, they're not futile if they're fun.
No, I'm having fun. I hope
exactly.
You're having
fun.
Certainly
am.
The audience is having fun. We certainly are very glad that you were able to join us. I've been speaking with Harsh. Mr. Harsh is the chief editor of the Pangean. Welcome you and invite you to read it. There's countless articles on a grand variety of subjects. Thank you so much for speaking. This has been absolutely delightful.
Oh, absolutely, as well from me. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
You are most welcome.